Thank you all for joining. Today is Tuesday, March 18th, 2025, Irvine International Academy Board of Directors meeting. I'd like to welcome you all. Thank you for your participation. We're currently located at 4782 Karen Ann Lane, Irvine, California, 92604. We may have someone calling in remotely. We're waiting to see if they do call in. It'll be from apartment 701, building 9, 165 Yingping Avenue, Jinwu District, Chengdu, Sichuan, China. The meeting was officially called to order around 6:03. Go through roll call. Molly?
Here.
Felipe? Absent. I am here. My name is Brett Freeman. David Sun?
Here.
And Miller is absent. Okay, moving forward. Approval of the agenda for the regular meeting of the Irvine International Academy Board of Directors on March 18, 2025. It's recommended the Board of Directors approve agenda for the regular meeting of the Irvine International Academy Board of Directors today at March 18, 2025. Is there a motion? Thank you, Molly. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, David. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, it passes. Okay, next item, community input on closed session agenda items. Do we have any?
We have one, Ms.
Thank you, Ms. Kraft. And just a heads up, I'll set the timer for 3 minutes.
The microphone is right over there if you want to grab it.
Thank you. See, I guess.
Testing. Okay, I'll stand here. Is that okay? Okay, thank you for the opportunity. I would like to kindly request an enrollment cap be instated ahead of the April 9th lottery for IIA and that the cap be set to under 600 students. Our enrollment numbers have already exceeded the forecasted enrollment numbers for the 2026-27 forecast by roughly 96 students, according to the 2024-2025 second interim financial report charter school assumptions page. I'm bringing this appeal to the IIA board on behalf of the school site council with urgency. Ultimately, the decision rests with the IIA board. I trust that you will do what's right and what's best for the IIA community. I trust that your decision will align with our charter. Based on feedback school site council has received from both staff and community members, we feel that we are already bursting at the seams with our current enrollment number, and we cannot afford to grow beyond what we are today, even with 2 additional classrooms at our disposal for 2025-2026 school year. Our staff and community members have been significantly impacted by this year's growth. There have been numerous challenges to our immersion program that stem from excessive growth and a lack of proper supports. These challenges interfere with our ability to uphold the school's vision and fulfill its mission to provide a bilingual and biliterate education that promotes high academic achievement and cultivates students' social, emotional intelligence and curiosity, equipping them with 21st century learning skills to thrive in our dynamic global society. There is strong evidence to suggest that a more intimate environment with strong supports in place up and down the chain of command is the greatest driver of success for an immersion program. When a conscious decision was made in July to increase 24-25 enrollment beyond the ceiling of 510 approved by the IIA board in June, challenges emerged. Beyond challenges administering the immersion program, growing beyond 510 has resulted in campus safety concerns, insufficient classroom supports available for our teachers, an increase in disruptive behaviors, disruption to the specials curriculum, inadequate monitoring of Chromebook usage and internet content being consumed, insufficient classroom space available for our students and teachers, and logistical challenges with drop-off and pickup that upset our surrounding neighbors. Our administration has been faced with difficult decisions on how to prioritize resource allocation just so that we stay above water and can keep the costs associated with growth under control. We have the ability to bring all these challenges to a head and effectively overcome them by capping enrollment and investing what matters most of all, ensuring that our students are prepared to excel and prosper in the 21st century. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you very much.
There we go. Thank you.
To confirm, just the one, right?
Yes.
Okay. Perfect. Next, we'll move to closed session for discussion and possible action. We have a public employee appointment release. And we estimate 45 minutes a good.
Yeah, it should be like
Placeholder.
30 to 45 minutes. Like
Okay.
fine.
Okay, thank you everyone for your patience. We're reconvening here. It's 6:52. We had a healthy discussion here. Some updates for you. We're sad to announce that our. Okay.
Sorry.
All right, we're reconvening here at 6:52. Thank you all for your patience. Just a report out from our closed session. We are sad to report that our executive director has submitted a resignation. She will be retiring at the end of this school year officially, June 30th, 2025. But we appreciate her time of service, and there will be more to come about our words of gratitude, but she will be assisting us in the process of floating the position for the executive director, which will be effective tomorrow. We will float that position. We will have it open between March 19th and April 4th. More to follow on that, but we're thankful that she's supporting us during this time of transition. Okay, moving on to the flag salute. Very important. Do we have any volunteers? All right, David, thank you.
Ready? Go.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, next is community input on agendized items. Public may comment on items listed on the agenda, including consent calendar, presentations, discussion, committee, and action items. Do we have any public comments?
I believe we have one comment.
Okay, Ms. Kraft, just a general reminder, we have 3 minutes. I'll set it when you start to begin.
Okay, I appreciate it. Okay, thank you again for the opportunity. This is on agenda item 9F, Executive Director Job Description. So for the sake of clarity and compliance with California Ed Code Article 4, Section 35161, I'd like to respectfully request that the Executive Director job description be modified to remove the following sentence in paragraph 1 of job summary. And that verbiage I want removed is serves as Chief Executive Officer of the board. Please remove any subsequent language that asserts that the Executive Director serves as the Chief Executive Officer of the board. California Education Code Article 4, Section 35161 states, quote, "The governing board of any school district may execute any powers delegated by law to it or to the district of which it is a governing board, and shall discharge any duty imposed by law upon it or upon the district of which it is the governing board, and may delegate to an officer or employee of the district any of those powers or duties. The governing board, however, retains ultimate responsibility over the performance of those powers or duties so delegated." In closing, the board has authority over the executive director, not the other way around. So that needs to be explicitly stated in any job descriptions or list of roles or responsibilities for an executive director. I would also like to appeal to you to consider explicitly including the requirement that candidates applying have experience running an immersion program, and ideally Mandarin language experience as well as experience running an immersion program. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you very much. Okay, that's the only public comment, is that correct?
That is.
Okay. Thank you. Moving on to items for consent. We have the A, approved minutes from the regular meeting of the IA Board of Directors on February 25th, 2025. B, approved contract with Loma Linda University for speech and language pathology intern. C, approved the master agreement with K through 12 special education services to provide psychology services. And D, approved the personnel report. It's recommended the Board of Directors approve consent items A through D. Is there a motion? I'm happy to make that motion. Second. Thank you, David. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, please say nay. Hearing none, it passes. Next, items for presentation. We have school update.
All right, good evening, everyone. I have my presentation up here on the screen. I believe it's also in your folder files. Just some general school updates of what's going on. For the first time, our Mandarin classes are preparing to take the Apple assessment. If you don't know what that is a Mandarin proficiency test that we're doing, and we're gonna do it from 3rd grade and above. And the purpose of that is to provide really summative assessments for our Mandarin program that really gives us feedback, monitors our student progress. And over time, it will allow our students to earn the seal of biliteracy. Our AP, Ms. Zhang, she's been working on that. So we're excited about that. And that will kind of just, again, enhance our program. And ultimately, as our students grow in the program, they will be able to be designated proficient. And they'll also get that seal of biliteracy. So it's just, our students right now are preparing for that. And they'll be starting it on the week of April 14th, I believe. Yeah, April 14th. Another general update is that next week we will have a middle school info session for our 5th grade families. I mean, anyone's welcome to come, but it's predominantly for our 5th grade families to kind of look at next year for middle school. Kind of just give an overview of the program. Let our teachers kind of present what they do in the classes, allow families to ask questions. So it's really just an opportunity to educate our families about the differences between our elementary program and then our middle school program. And a big focus for next year is going to be our middle school program. So there'll be some changes to the program that will kind of help tighten it up and improve it. And then just general updates too, we continue to have a variety of opportunities for parent engagement and education. So just in the past few weeks, we've had parent workshops, school site council, coffee with the principal. Next week, we have parent teacher conferences. So there's always there's always something going on. We have our PBIS assemblies. So every week there's something going on activities wise, and trying to just engage with our parents, allow those opportunities to have that. So that's kind of what's been going on. Kind of looking ahead, I've already kind of talked about parent teacher conferences. After that, we do have our spring break. So no, a lot of people are happy about that. And then we do our Apple testing. And then on our calendar too, we actually have our open house on April 23rd. So starting next week, there'll be updates sent out to families, kind of communicating that. And we'll kind of begin the prep on that. And then kind of looking out into May where we begin our CAS testing. So we're kind of finishing up March. We have our break, and then we're going to just jump off and kind of get that final push, the final run into May where we do a lot of our testing and end of the year activities. So in general, that's what's going on. Yeah. Any questions?
So the APPL test, is that a standard test
Yeah, it's a standardized test.
and administered by who?
We administer it, but think of it as like, I mean, it's not state level, but think of it as like a CAPS test for our Mandarin program. So it allows us to assess their levels. It gives us kind of that standard feedback. And then that way we can monitor students year to year and then develop that proficiency.
Are there any references to, compare against two?
Yeah, so there was that one, and there was another test. I can't remember at the beginning of the year, we kind of compared the two. But when we did the research, we kind of asked around, this was kind of the standard, so to speak. It aligns along with AP. And so really when we look at our students, not just while at IA, but also into high school, this is the assessment that aligns with that.
A general question,
Yes.
this Friday is a teacher planning day,
Mhm.
right? Is that this day similar that other schools spend to do teacher planning, or they usually have one day a different time?
So usually schools will have 2 to 3 teacher planning days, and that's a day for staff to have meetings, professional development, and then grade level planning. So it's time for our teachers to really also work together and kind of look out, okay, so we're in March, let's plan and look ahead and work together on that. So that's kind of that day.
But is it?
It's usually not, and
It's not a common day.
it's not the same day at all
Oh, no, no.
schools.
Yeah.
Schools usually have
Yeah.
it different days. A lot of times it'll coincide with the end of the semester, the end of the trimester. Ours kind of coincides with the end of the trimester, so, it's dependent on the school's calendar usually. But they're not like a holiday that's common to all
Yeah.
schools.
Yeah, and when the calendar is built, I mean, that's taken into consideration for students, obviously, the number of school days they have.
Thank you.
All right, very good.
Okay, next, moving on to financial update, Mr. Jones.
All righty. Good evening, folks. Hope you're all doing well. Today we'll be looking at financials through February 2025. You should have copies of these also in your board packet. In February, Irvine received revenues of $495,924.28. A lot of this was primarily driven by the revenue limit sources amounting to $406,126. Federal revenues and state revenues contributed $707,225 and $77,743 respectively, and local revenues added $4,846. Expenses for the month totaled $271,150. Largest portion being our salary and benefits of about $153,000. Books and supplies of $23,026. Operations of $105,168, and other outgo had a decrease of $10,192. Year-to-date revenues received $3,581,249. Of that amount, $2.6 million or 73% of that was from our revenue limit sources of our state aid, our LCFF state aid, our EPA, and our property taxes. About 1% of that was for our federal revenues, which are now starting to receive, and other state revenues of $599,000, or roughly 17% total. On the expenditure side, Irvine incurred $4,039,515, with salary and benefits being the largest expense category there of $2.5 million, or roughly 63% of our total $4 million in expenses. Operations costs were $1,081,000. Books and supplies were $363,000, and our other outgo was $57,659. Year-over-year comparison, looking at where we were at this same period last year, total revenues increased obviously by 50%. And obviously that's a change, most of that equated from our LCFF sources with a higher ADA compared to that same period last year. State revenues had a slight decline of roughly 2%. Local revenues, obviously we had most of our one-time contributions here from our local sources. That was up 175% to the tune of $118,000 in February of 24 to $324,000 in February of 25. And again, that's a year-to-date, year-over-year comparison. And our other outgo obviously exponentially lower than we were the same period last year in terms of our expenses. Now you can see here, overall our expenses increased by 7% through the same period last year. Personnel costs went up by 11%. Our books and supplies category, that was down 2%. Our operational costs were up 28%, and our other outgo, that largest single category, was down by 78%, meaning that we've borrowed quite a bit less this year than we did through the same period last year. Sort of taking a look at our budget compared to our actuals in this format is, again, as I mentioned, we roughly received 48% of our total revenues, call it 50% of our total revenues of 3.5 million compared to our budget here of 7,706,000. Our expenses were 4,039,000, leaves us with a deficit of 458,000. I believe last year through this period, when you look at the balance sheet, we're over $1 million down through February of last year, and we're still looking towards our net income at the year end to be about 509,000, barring any unforeseen expenses. So I mentioned on the balance sheet, you can see where our total assets here of 914,000 compared to same period last year, 417,000. So an uptick of about 497,000. On the balance sheet side, our total liabilities of 1.94. Last year at this point in time, we were quite the other way, variance of 702,000. Our liabilities at that point in time were roughly 2.6 million. Most of that were AR sales through Gross Schools. And I'm happy to say, as of today, we have officially paid off all our outstanding balances for the Gross Schools. I believe the last payment was last week for the property taxes for March. So we're good there, but we did add in this 1 million from Lend Donate for cash flow purposes as well. So that's reflected here. As I mentioned, you can see where we were at the same period last year. We were 1.3 million down through February this year. A huge turnaround in terms of that. $927,000 change. We're now only down 458,265 through February. Taking a look at our cash on hand, we have roughly 44 days of cash on hand at the end of February. You can see the balance in the treasury there, 416,000 in 2025 compared to 164,000 in the same period last year. And obviously in the Cathay account, we have roughly 451,000, 200,000 in savings account and another 251,000 in the checking account for a total of $867,580.25. I will pause to take any questions, but as we come through the end of February, going into March and April, we'll definitely start to look at things for next year in terms of budgeting, working on the LCAP, things of that nature. Obviously, I believe the school will be on spring break, so most of that will happen starting in April. And I'll pause there to take any questions, comments, or concerns from the board.
Did I know?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, David here. Just a question, I mean, you know, maybe minor. Why the data you compared to, you know, February 25th instead of at the end of February? And yet on the consolidated financials, that's as of end of February 28th. I mean, is that a little bit inconsistent?
You mean the date here? It's February 2024 and February 2025. So it is, yeah.
Everything's on February 25th. Why is that not February 28th, the end of the month?
It is. It's the month and the year.
It's February of 2025.
Oh, that's at the end of, okay.
Yeah. I just didn't write out the. Yeah, you scared me there for a second.
Okay.
Yeah. It's sorry. It's the 4-digit year shortened to 2 digits.
All right.
Yeah. Not. I get exactly what you're asking.
All right. Okay. Got it.
Hi, Delano, this is Brett. Question for you. The last board meeting for the 2024-2025 second interim budget net income projection, can you remind us of what that number was?
Yes. It's reflected here now. Our net income projection will be 509,049.99.
Yes, yeah, as of the last board meeting, can you refresh us on what that was? Did it change? Did this number change?
In the budget or the actuals?
In the projected.
In the projected, yeah. We if you recall at the second interim, we approved the second interim budget, which is reflected here. with these numbers, and that budget, that was that first one interim is no longer valid. If you recall, that was part of the conversation at second interim.
Our projections haven't changed
Okay,
since
that's what I
last
was-
board meeting.
Yes,
Second interim.
that's what I wanted.
So that number is the same as
Okay.
our projections were in the second interim.
Okay, thank you.
I got one more question. The revenue increase, 50% of revenue increase, to what extent, that, what percentage of that attributed to, enrollment increase?
So on the LCFF side, that 50% increase in, and let me get back to that slide really quickly here. We have a roughly 60% increase in our LCFF revenues compared to the same period last year, and that's directly attributed to the P1 revenues from 2024 versus P1 of 2025.
7%.
So we not only had a dramatic increase in
Yeah.
student enrollment, but also increased by several percent our attendance rate.
Our attendance rate as
Those
well.
together,
Right.
created that huge
Okay.
revenue increase.
All right.
It was about 150 student difference between our P1
Yeah.
between the 2 years, as well as I think almost a 3% increase in
Yeah,
our
compared to last
in
year.
our attendance.
And then next month's meeting, I'll grab the ADA from last year's P2, April, and sort of do a quick comparison to what I think will be where we will land this year, just to see. And to Amy's point, it is about 130 to 140 variance from last year to this year in terms of overall student and ADA growth.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're
Appreciate it.
welcome, folks. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to items for discussion and possible action. We've got item A here, approve the contract with Charter School Management Corporation. In November, IA published a request for proposal for a new back office business services provider. After interviewing several firms, the committee chose CSMC based on several factors, including experience, references, scope of services, and price. CSMC will provide business, human resources, student data, and accounting services for IA for a period of 2 years. LCAP goal action, all goals, funding source, general fund, budget, financial impact, 110,000, already reflected in the 2025-2026 budget.
So we have representatives here tonight from CSMC who are going to give a little bit of an overview of what services that they're going to provide, as well as give the board a chance just to ask any questions that you have as well. And the contract is in the board folder.
Great. Well, thank you so much. We're going to start with some introductions. My name is Kristen Nowak. I'm the Executive Vice President of Operations. I'm also a school business manager, so like Delano, like Nick. Delano used to work with us. We know him well. I have been with CSMC since 2019. Prior to that, I was a charter school leader and a chief business officer. And before that, I was a management consultant. So weirdly, I really like my job. All of my experiences have led me here. I'm going to kick it over to Aaron.
Aaron Gebord, Vice President of Compliance and Operations. I've been with the company since just before the pandemic, so right around 2019. I also work in the capacity of a school business manager for schools in the SoCal region. I work to support Nick as well and all of our internal operations stuff. My past life, I'm a CPA and I was an auditor. So.
Yeah, my name's Nick Miller. I'm a school business manager, much like Kristen and Aaron. A lot of what I do, I've been working here for a few years. I have a few schools in my belt. And yeah, I'm excited to work with you guys.
It's been great. Okay, next. So we are excited to be here. I know, it's been a while since we met. I'm sad of the report out from closed session, but we'll talk more about that later, Amy. But we really do. We appreciate the opportunity to come and get to know you and support you. So if you want to go to the next slide. a little bit about us, and this is what Julie had asked, but she decided to save it, so it was fresh. She didn't want to, get stale. So CSMC has been a back office provider for about 25 years. Our founder and president is still our president, and he was a charter school founder. All of our leadership team have been charter school leaders, teachers, administrators, authorizers. We even have an EVP who is a former authorizer from LAUSD. As Aaron mentioned, former auditors. We really do have a lot of experience, not just in the traditional accounting and payroll and finances, but we also have sat in the seats and walked the halls. And I get it if you don't call us back right away, maybe you're doing carpool duty or somebody did something in the lunchroom or you're doing a threat assessment. We've been there. We really do understand. And we think that sets us apart a little bit. Next slide, can you please? So really our mission and vision, we're very client partner focused. We call our clients client partners. One of our core values is to just foster improving that client partner experience. Also really big on cross collaboration with all of our teams. As you'll learn a little bit more about kind of our delivery model, we really collaborate well. We like everyone to be on the same page. We like to be really transparent. But those are the things that really come to mind. We try to keep our mission and vision front and center when we make big decisions. We're about 95 employees intentionally. We like to stay below that 100 threshold because it kicks in some different HR rules. And we are based in Temecula, but we are a regional kind of structure. So we all are the part of the LAOC team. We have a San Diego team. We have a Central and Northern California team. I would say probably 80% of our work is in California. That's where we started. But we also have a pretty thriving book of business in Nevada. And then we have one school out in Tennessee. We're partnering with a local Southern California-based charter group that is looking to expand. So we have kind of helped partner with them to learn Tennessee. Kind of fun. So next slide, what is it that you're contracting with us for? So similarly to the supports that you're accustomed to, it's traditional accounting, it's all the back office functions, it's the things that when you think about running a school, probably the reason this was founded is so that you could be excited about the delivery model and the instructional method that you're all very passionate about. But it is still a business. And so we help with the school side of running the business. So bills have to get paid, lights have to turn on, people need to get paid. So we help with payroll, we help with accounts payable, we help with our accounting system. One of the things that, Amy had mentioned when we were first talking with her is we do have some really great systems that allow for 24/7 direct access. So our accounting system is Sage Intacct. It's web-based with login credentials. You can log in at any given time if you have any questions and see your data. Same with our accounts payable system. We have some really good processes and systems that are afforded to you as a client. So with that, next slide. And then I'm going to have Nick tell us a little bit about that sort of standing call, our service delivery model.
Yeah, and I think Kristen alluded to that delivery model, and this is the main way that we do that. So these are the client partner standing calls. We work with you guys, at the school level to set up a call, and it's pretty much we're getting all of the players on the same page. We're just getting everyone up to date because, as Kristen was saying earlier, there's payroll, there's accounting, there's student data, and all of these have different deliverables. And our jobs is to make sure, hey, let's make sure we're on the same page. We know when everything's due, and we're up to date on everything. And that's really the main way that we do that here at CSMC.
Thanks. And then Aaron?
Yes, so one of the departments that I oversee is our compliance department, and that handles all of your reporting requirements that you have to do for the fiscal side of things. So, we'll work with your authorizer, we'll get together and know what your deliverables are, when the due dates are, and we have a whole team that will be working on the financial side of things, working with Nick, making sure that your deliverables are in front of your board if they need to be, or they are submitted on time.
Great. And yeah, so that brings us to board meeting support. So a lot of this is going to be meeting preparation. So we'll work with the executive director, I'm sorry, whoever that may be, CBD.
Already sad.
I know.
Already sad.
I'm sorry to bring up that news, but we'll work with.
Retired.
Yeah, yeah. Good point. Yeah.
I'm very jealous of.
Yeah, you're gonna be in Portugal, like, good luck.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, but we'll work with whoever that may be, and we're gonna set up kind of the agendas, really making sure that all of the deliverables again are on there, making sure that we're compliant with all of the various regulations that the government has. So that's a big part of it. And then another part is going to be our financial presentations, which are gonna look a little something like this. And just to quickly kind of touch on each of these. So first, we're really going to start with this actuals to budget. So I know in kind of maybe previous presentations, you guys had that year-to-year financial look. We think because of that new enrollment growth you guys have, it'll be especially important to look at the actual to budget. And really compare that just because of how different, year over year you guys are. I mean, you guys are 67% up in revenue. So that's really going to be why we're looking at the budgeted versus the year over year actuals. Then we're also going to look at you guys' cash. We have a lot of, cute little slides on here that our IT department have put together. And then finally, we have our looking ahead. Again, just making sure we have all our bases covered, making sure we have all of those, reporting requirements on there so the board can see, so that we all know that we're tracking them and we're getting those accomplished.
And Nick, just one thing to add on sort of the financial health of the organization, you'll see these metrics. I heard that you have 44 days cash on hand, so that would make that metric red for us. So it's not just a report out, it's then what can we do? And we would implement certain things like, weekly reconciled cash positions, looking at your bank statement, looking at what's outstanding, making recommendations based on how much your next payroll is estimated to be, how much your STRS and PERS, how much your utilities, your, all of the things. And then making recommendations on, hey, can we hold some of these non-urgent accounts payable? So really working with you to create a really robust cash management plan, because it sounds like that's been a little bit of a challenge at this stage. What is nice with this increased growth and with that projected surplus, you should, by the time all of the funding, of course, it comes after the kids are on summer vacation, but after you get all of your funding for this year, that should give you a little bit of a buffer so that next year, maybe it doesn't feel like you need to sell your receivables through Grow Schools. We're very familiar with them. I just presented on a panel with them last week in Sacramento. They are our friends. We are very well versed with all of them. So if we should have to go back to that situation, we can instantly pick up that relationship. It's great because I know you've already been vetted through that portal. It's very easy if we do need to, but we would use these metrics to really proactively help you manage that. And anything else that's an issue, but the cash just popped out from Delana's presentation.
Me as well. So one other thing that we track for you and report out to you in the monthly or bi-weekly standing call, whichever you choose. Traditionally, at the beginning, we kind of meet a little bit more frequently, and then as things can kind of set in stone, we taper that off to once a month. But restricted funds, we know that you probably have quite a few different sources of funding, and tracking those spending requirements, and also tracking compared to budget. You likely have a plan for year-over-year spending. We want to make sure that you, as a board, and your executive director are all on the same page and understanding kind of how much you plan to spend this year. And we will work with you to make sure that you meet those goals and meet those targets.
Thanks, Erin. And then one last thing, there are some things that are afforded to you that haven't really contracted for, but that are included. And so I think we were commenting on, we kind of fell in love with your agenda because it actually says what LCAP it is. This is goal, this, action, this. So we have a consulting group that does some different consulting services, but as part of the CSMC family, they hold webinars and office hours on different topics. So it might be on charter renewal, it might be on WASP accreditation, it might be on, hopefully not, federal program monitoring. It definitely will be on LCAP. And then you can come with specific questions, again, free to office hours, and ask for some direction. I know we're in, year 2 of this new template, but any questions that you have as you're starting to do work on next year. And then we also invite those consulting folks to come on at the front end of our standing calls when there's big things like LCAP coming up or something, to hop on and to say, hey, what questions do you have? and to dedicate really 5, 6, 10 minutes just to talk about whatever you need. If you feel like you need more support and maybe in a time of transition, I'm not sure who did the LCAP last year, maybe you do. We do have, additional supports that we can offer you, but I wanted to let you know webinars, office hours, and it doesn't have to be just one person. It can be as many people as you want. They are free as part of the CSMC family and a really great resource. They'll also partner with student data to talk about certifying your data at different points. So they're really timely, really helpful information. So I just wanted to point that out. But hopefully you got a little bit of a sense of what we're about. We're really looking forward to supporting you, especially through a transition, both onboarding with us and then a transition to a new leader. We have a lot of really good experience doing that. We even have offered at times, there's a school down in San Diego where depending on who the new leader is, we have actually provide like a leadership consulting and support, executive leadership and consulting and support for that, new leader who was somebody who was in-house, who maybe the board saw as an opportunity to advance, but still needed to shore up some things. We offer that as well. So there's a lot of supports that we have. We're here, we're just excited to partner with you, and we're really invested in your success. Are there any questions?
So, out of 3 of you, sure, who would be the point of contact?
That would be me.
Okay. So you will work closely with, the executive director, right?
Yes,
All right.
of course, yeah, and really all teams. I mean, my job is a lot like a quarterback of the team. I'm making sure that everyone, is payroll's getting done, the books look good, and that's a lot of my role. It's that project management side of things.
I see. So in the board meeting, in the future, so, you'll be the person to give the financial update.
You're stuck with me.
But we do work in a team, as mentioned, so I don't know if Nick is on vacation at a concert or a sporting event, like some people we know over here. We are a team, so, we all can fill in. I think Aaron lives 6. Yeah,
Oh,
it's pretty close.
Okay.
But we are regionally located. Obviously, we drove here. Nobody got on the plane and flew here. So we are available. One thing is, similarly to how Delano did support remotely, that is our typical, board meeting support. But when there are important issues, we are happy to come in person.
Okay. And the second question, currently in your firm, CSMC has no financial ties with Delano's company.
No, we do not.
company,
So he used to be an employee of ours, and then he and another employee, left to go start their own.
So basically,
business.
they're totally independent, from
Yes.
across, right.
Teresa, sorry for coughing.
Sorry that you saw
During your
that. I felt
presentation.
bad.
I grabbed more, it was, I couldn't find any water. so-
Sorry about that. Thank you for partnering with us. We really appreciate it. So you've seen the financial reports that we've received, right? You can see from past board meetings and what we received today. It looks like we'll have access to the Sage site. All the board members will have access.
If you all want to.
Okay, whoever, right, on the
Yeah.
board. And how often is that information updated?
About every 15 minutes at max. So
Okay.
It's really is real time. And what I love about it is you can log on and without even running a report, you land on a dashboard that shows you sort of your balance sheet and all of your profit and loss statement, and you can click into those numbers and get the details right there. So if you say, oh, I look at my balance sheet and oh, I don't really love that cash number, it looks small, but I thought we had 200,000 in this account and 250, you can click on that, click down, and it will show the detail. It's really user friendly, and we'll provide training for that. Typically, from a board perspective, we usually, the treasurer may ask for it and
Yeah.
maybe the president. obviously we can provide access to whomever you think is important. It's your information. And it is ultimately public information, but you probably want to be judicious in who you decide to give access to.
So are there system generated areas of focus, right? So like you mentioned, days on hand, 44 or something like that, and they get a red flag. So is someone gonna be manually contacting or reaching out to us, or a treasurer, or our ED basically saying you should be concerned about this? Or is it gonna be generated by the system automatically? How much of it is system managed versus Aaron or anyone else?
That's a good question. We rely on the system and the data that's in there, but we very much are hands-on. So Nick is the person that's gonna be saying, future ED, I'm super concerned.
Yeah.
Let's jump on a call. Usually what we'll start to do is we'll say, okay, we're gonna manage this on a weekly basis so that there's really good visibility, excellent, just transparency in exactly where we are. Here's what's actual cash in here. These are what we want to do. We want to release this. Let's talk about this. So during times of kind of cash crisis, we have a standard protocol we go through, but that is 100%. We're going to pick up the phone and say, hey, we're going to start implementing this. Let's talk through this first one. Let's talk about what this looks like. Let's talk about who you want to get this information on an ongoing basis. And maybe that includes somebody on the board. But we really do have experience with really actively managing.
Yeah, and to build off what Kristen said, that's something we also talk about at the standing calls. So, it's not my first time with a school that has, cash troubles. I think one of my schools right now is going through a very similar thing. Like Kristen said, there's a very standard protocol in place that, once we get you guys really onboarded and set up in all of our systems, then we'll go through and, start going through that protocol and really looking at cash in earnest. But again, like Kristen was saying, the enrollment increases really,
It's going to be helpful.
really helpful for your bottom line.
So you have experience working with schools that have a line of credit to some extent, right? So how does that work? We plug that into your.
Well, we look at, obviously, we get that cash influx and then we, it depends on, we have schools that have bonds, we have schools that, sell their receivables. So just in our cash flow, we have the ability to show that repayment timeframe, what that looks like, so that we ebb and flow and we say, okay, well, now we've sold that one, but so now we're not receiving that revenues coming in. So it all feeds into our cash flow models and we go through that.
We can provide projections on when you might need to dip into a line of credit as well.
Okay.
So.
That's what I'm wondering, how we connect the
Yeah.
pieces here with that, because that's gonna be new for us. We're moving out of the selling.
Trying to get
receivable.
rid of the
Yeah.
not
I'm
having to
familiar
sell
with the
receivables,
rule.
and then we're actually approving, I don't know, it's item C,
Yes.
the $1.5 million line of
Yeah.
credit to the bank so that it's a much lower
It's
interest
good
rate.
to have. Hopefully you don't have to dip into it, but
Yeah.
if you do, we'll have a system in place to kind of track. We typically look around 2 to 3 months in advance and we update it every couple of weeks. And then we're kind of, as we get to know the spending habits of your school, that'll obviously help us to be more accurate on that projection. But we'll be able to project, a couple months in advance that, hey, maybe in 2 months from now, it might be privy to go to the board and ask for permission to use this, should you need be, right? We also know the wording that you might need to use as a board to where you're not required to spend it, but where you might have the permission to utilize those funds should you need.
Okay.
And as you grow, you're gonna experience cash, right? As you
Yeah.
keep growing, we're familiar with that growth and how cash lags, so we have a lot of experience with that as well.
One other thing too to think about as we do budget revisions and things with you, each budget revision includes that cash analysis and that forecast. I guarantee you this lovely person here requires it.
Yeah.
So it's really easy to see. We're going to have a challenge and to be honest, this is the time when people usually have challenges. They just don't pay us the 12th every month. It just doesn't work that way. And so usually March, April is where you see things start to keep pace and that revenue starts to pick up just a little bit more. So we're very familiar.
Okay, thanks. And then I saw it's a 2-year contract. It looks like year 1 is 100K and then year 2 is 116. So I was wondering what's the pricing strategy there?
To be honest, we want it to be really affordable. We recognize where you're coming from and we also see that you have a little bit of cash flow challenges. So we try to be a little bit, wanna, you know, we wanna be a little bit of a loss leader on the front end. We want to make sure, and then we wanna right size based on where we think your enrollment's going, what we think your, you know, requirements are for us managing your account. And then after that, you know, should you be interested in renewing with us, we try to tie it to like a COLA, something that just keeps track.
It's
But-
not 16%, right?
Um,
Okay. That's what I'm wondering.
No,
I mean,
it's-
should we
yeah,
be
It
expecting
floats closer
another?
to like,
yeah.
yeah, between 2 to 4%.
Okay.
Depending on what SSC says on. it. No, good question.
Is the number, by the way, along the same line, is that a number come from, you know, with the consideration of the size of the school and the stage of where we are?
Yeah, so we look at comparable client partners that we have. We have almost 100 in the state of California, so
Right.
it's pretty easy for us to see, okay, this is where they're located. You know, this is what their facility situation is. This is, you know, this is their ADA. These are the revenues we're seeing on their projections. They are most closely in line with these 4 schools. What are we charging those? Because we have historical data, we do time tracking. Kind of like we're attorneys to the 15th of an hour, so internally, we know the cost it takes us to service each client partner. So that we have really good, you know, payroll cost data, so that we understand what pricing makes sense for us. But like we said, year 1 is a little bit of a discount, mainly because we think we're a good fit for you and we're excited for the partnership.
Have there been any issues related to any audit findings or things that nature related to your materials and your clients?
So we have seen an uptick in audit findings in 2 areas. It's kind of funny because Erin and I were just meeting with our VP of accounting yesterday around things that are more on the school side. And we're talking about how we can support, educate, provide some best practices to all of our students. They seem to be bricks and mortar schools that are looking to capture independent study ABA. They're not keeping all the documentation and doing the registration the right way. I'm not kidding you. It's been a real uptick. And then some of the ELOP documentation on the extended days and the things like that. So again, more housekeeping on the school side, but we sit and we look at that as a team and we say, what are we seeing across the industry? Where are there areas where we now can say, okay, and Erin's actually working on this right now, and I just said, oh, hey, this YMC on-demand thing is fantastic about independent study. How can we put together then like an information flyer and shoot it out to all of our client partners to say, we're seeing this, we want you to avoid it. Please consider these things that have happened to others in the space and maybe take another look at your internal controls process. Make sure your fiscal policies are updated. Make sure your actual procedures that you do align with those fiscal policies. And here's a refresher on what the rules are around this. Because we really did see those 2 lanes seem to be where schools are getting some audit findings this cycle more so than we've seen before.
I mean more on the financial statements that are produced through
You
the
know-
organization. I mean, is it really based on the software and the compliance that the software goes through? And so I'm wondering the liability in terms of if there are findings by our third party, right, auditor, where that falls, if in fact we are doing it the right way, or we think we're doing it the right way.
Right.
But
Well,
we
if-
really are relying on our back office to really help support in this area.
And you should, and I'm gonna let Erin talk about that in a minute. I will say, we partner with, I was wondering if maybe Marcy from Christy White was gonna be here.
She's not.
Yeah.
I love her. She's my people. But we partner really well with all of the audit firms that are in the space. Your audit, you might think it happens one time, there's interim audit. We start at the beginning. If there is anything that we feel, especially during the onboarding, that maybe we're like, "Oh, I love that accounting treatment," we will reach out and we will talk to your auditor right then and say, this is what we're seeing. What would you like to see us do? And we will collaborate with them to make sure that they are comfortable with it. So we have a really good relationship with our auditors and obviously.
And our accounting team is, full of experts in their own right. We have a wide variety of individuals who have been working in this space for decades. And they have great experience and they kind of know GAAP or GASB by the back of their hand. So if there's any questions, we're not afraid to reach out to your auditor to make sure that we're doing the accounting treatment right. We're not guessing on anything. we try to be as by the book as possible, and, you know, that's also goes into effect on these standing calls, right? We look at how things are being reported. You know, if you have any tricky situations, I mean, line of credit's not necessarily tricky, that's pretty standard. We see that all across, but you know, building purchases, leases, long-term leases and stuff like that, that hits your balance sheet and your income statement. You know, we're really well versed in all of that stuff and all the treatment on that side of things. So really confident in the ability of our accounting team to get the job done and not have any audit findings. A lot of things that we've seen this year, just on the state side, when they released their data, was related to internal controls. We do have experience in that. Obviously, that's on the school side and being, you know, well versed on your fiscal policies and procedures and making sure that you're doing things, you know, according to plan. But we do help write those, amend those as needed to fix your processes, should that be in doubt. We do recommend you as a board review those documents, you know, yearly. And, you know, we're definitely available to help you review those if you have any questions and provide some insight onto what other client partners and how they may be doing their processes.
Yeah, I guess I'm wondering, do you, your own compliance testing for your own organization? And are you governed by any particular regulatory organization?
I can take this one.
Yeah.
So we're a private company, but we do have a ton of internal controls. We have a bunch of initiatives that we focus on each year, 3 or 4. And one of them actually is some operational efficiencies in internal controls. Re-looking at every single one of our departments and sort of, you know, implementing different checklists and having, you know, those redundancies and division of responsibilities built in on our end. So if we have an associate account manager who's doing, you know, a year-end booking of a payroll accrual, their account manager is going to double check it, and our divisional director is going to make sure. So we do look at that, and we are big fans, and you'll start to see, especially Grant, if you're on the standing calls, we're big on the cycle of reflection and what comes next. And so it is not uncommon, especially when we take on somebody new at the end of a cycle, to say, okay, let's say budget revision. Can we debrief? Let's talk about what do you think went well, what didn't go well. We really believe that we get better with feedback and constant communication. We want to meet you where your communication preferences are, but we really believe in that feedback cycle and always taking a hard look at ourselves. But we are.
Just a couple more questions. So would assume you have a system, a reporting system, accounting system. Is that a system consistent or compatible with the current system you're using with through Delano's company, or, you know, how would
It is not the same, it's not the same system, but
We're familiar with how, you know, we take on new clients all the time that have a
Right.
different accounting software system. There are a lot of export features to get the data as of a certain date going into our system. That's a pretty standard process in our field. But we believe that our system is the most state of the art that you have.
and I've actually used their system in the past.
No.
It was the system that we bought for OPA when we took all of our accounting and business services internal.
Right.
And so we vetted a lot of different systems and looking at what we wanted to take, but it is not the same system. So there will be some, you know,
Right.
transferring
Transferring.
data over.
Because Aaron said you can generate a report, 15 update every 15 minutes, right? So that means that your system is linked to our, you know, current accounting system, right? Are we using?
No.
No, we don't currently have an internal accounting system.
We're using, you know,
We're using
Yeah.
whatever Delano, but
Delano.
we do everything manually currently, so we have to submit everything on spreadsheets.
so that's what I mean, yeah.
Using Sage, we would then be able to do things much less manually, so we
Yeah.
would input data right into the system.
Yeah, your historical data is gonna still live on that historical software. We're gonna input the figures as of a certain point in
Yeah.
time, and we're gonna take over from there. But we won't have access to your prior accounting software and that data.
Okay, got you. So we're periodically gonna generate financial statements report for board meetings and for other. Yeah, so that's a pretty standard, right, across the board.
Yeah.
And, you know, as a board member, when we sit up here, you know, personally, I don't like to just look at some, you know, hard and cold numbers. I really would like to go through the numbers to see what the variables, the key drivers, assumptions, underlying assumptions, and what conclusions, business ramifications. And who's going to be in the position to, you know, draw the conclusion and put together a summary instead of just generate
Yeah.
some numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Nick.
Do you mind?
Yeah.
You guys are gonna hear more than enough of me in our, future board meetings, so I figured I'd stay a little quiet, but. For this one, this is gonna be me, so I'm gonna be looking at your guys' financial statements as I do with my other schools. And it's just gonna be drawing conclusions, exactly what you said, like the very first slide is going to be an actuals to budget, which is, hey, you guys are under an LCFF. This isn't a big deal because this is just a timing variance because we haven't received February's LCFF payment yet. So nothing to worry about. It's like, here are the variances and I'll explain them to you. And
It's a narrative.
it's a narrative.
Yeah.
I like a bullet point format. Aaron's
Yeah.
more of a paragraph guy. If you guys are a paragraph guy, I can
He's
go
a bullet
ahead.
point guy.
I
I
like
do.
a bullet point.
There you
Oh.
go.
I knew
Language.
something about you.
I like
The polo hat, I liked it. Yeah,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
But no, we do that analysis each
Yeah.
month, so it's not just an eye chart, it starts out with, here's where we are and here are the big things driving those variances. Then you're gonna look at the graphical representation, and then you're gonna look at the eye chart if you want the details, right? And then we're gonna look at those financial metrics that are gonna call things out really easily. You're gonna look at your balance sheet, you're gonna look at your cash flow. So you're gonna get a really comprehensive overview, but it does start with that analysis. It's not just.
I like that. You know, Delano has done a great job in providing very detailed, he's professional, detailed financials. So sometimes, you know, I like to see some of the conclusions.
Yeah.
You know, what should the board pay attention to?
Right.
Yeah.
Because nobody has a time to sit and read through, analyze every number. Nobody.
That's our job.
Yeah, unless you're really into it.
Yeah.
And we like to provide our board presentation to cater to all walks of life. We understand that not every board member might have the financial acumen that some people do. So that's why there are certain slides that maybe, if you're really an expert in finance, it might be fairly basic, but it might help that other board member to understand that financial picture. So we try to cater to both sides of the spectrum there.
Thank you so much, because I'm that person. So I'm learning, I have already learned a lot the past year. But I look forward to, I think will be great, and to explain, have a conclusion so I can understand. Thank you.
Ask lots of questions.
Yes.
I love talking.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you for coming. Okay, any other comments before we proceed?
No, I think probably do that enough.
Okay, recommended that the board of directors approve action item A. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, David. Is there a second?
One second.
Thank you, Molly. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, please say nay. Hearing none, it passes. Okay, moving to the next item B, approve the contract with Christie White, Inc. Local educational agencies need to engage an audit firm for the 2024-2025 year no later than April 1st, 2025 per Ed Code 41020 per P3. Selected audit firm is familiar with the audit requirements of California K-12 LEAs, and its accountants are familiar with GASB pronouncements and statutory funding mechanisms. Christie White Inc. will provide audit and tax preparation services for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2025, with the option to renew for 2 renewal periods through June 30th, 2027. LCAP goal action, all goals, funding source, general fund, budget and financial impact, 13,550, already reflected in the 2025-2026 budget. Recommended the board of directors approve action item B. Any comments?
So Christy White has been previously our auditor. She works with a lot of the different back office providers. I've worked with her for a long time. And so we have contracted with them. We have it'll be a 1-year contract with the option to renew for two additional years.
my question is, have we received any other bids?
This year we did not go out to bid. She is. They are one of the audit firms that are pretty widely used by different California schools and districts. Since we were going out to bid for back office provider
Yeah.
and also for new bank, we did not go out to bid for
Okay.
this year, because they're kind of widely used. We can, it is just an option to extend them for the 2 years. And so if the board wanted to, we could go out to bid for the following year and not extend the contract for the additional 2 years. We're really only contracting technically for this 1 year
Yeah.
with the option to extend for 2 years.
What was the rate last year?
I believe it was a little less. It was probably about $500 less, but I don't know that for sure. I can get that amount for you.
Okay. How soon would? how long?
I can try to look it up right now, but it may take me a minute.
So if we were to renew, this would commit us to 2 years, right?
This only commits us to 1 year with the option to be able to extend it for 2 additional years after that.
So each renewal, is that on an annual basis or automatically will be?
Normally, we would then extend it for, if the board chose, we could just then extend it without having to get a new contract. We would just extend that contract, or if the board wanted to go out to bid, then we could rebid it next year and not do the additional optional 2 years.
So my question is, my point is, why not, on an annual basis?
Yeah. Yeah, why with the option to renew?
Yeah.
That's,
Yeah.
yeah.
Why do the option to
Yeah.
renew? I mean, it just makes
it
it
lock in
easier
up
so
front?
that we don't, a lot of times they'll give us a better deal with
Yeah.
those options. And also it keeps staff from having to redo the audit bid every single year. Because we are able to do those over a 3-year or with the 2 additional. So rather than having to go out to bid every single year for a new audit firm, it allows us to be able to extend it for 3 years.
So if we approve this one, this contract, we'll log, basically log in a rate.
Yes,
13,
for those
13,000.
additional years.
So it would be flat for 3 years.
It is
or-
not. If you look at the contract, they actually do, it is a rate increase
Yeah.
each year, but we're locking in that increase now, so it would not go over what we've locked in.
I guess my
Trying to
question is,
recall.
why not to just go on a yearly basis? Yes.
I mean, that's up to the board. It just
Yeah,
does
it's
make
work.
a lot of extra work for the staff.
But just that we're flying a little blind here because we don't know how
Yeah,
competitive the rate
Yeah.
is. And
yeah, I mean, I can say from past experience, Christy White is normally comes in at the lowest.
Yeah.
Of all the comparable auditors that are being used, around the county, so I have gone out to bid multiple times for auditors, so. So usually they do come in around, some of the lowest amounts. We just didn't go out to bid this year. And I'm trying to search through old, because I wasn't here. when we
Yes,
go out to bid,
okay.
So it's taking me a little while to
No
find the
problem.
old audit contracts.
Yeah, so Amy, the other questions with the option to renew, the option, can have 2 minutes. And who's gonna call the option? They have the option to renew automatically, or we have the option to renew?
You have the option, so it
We
would
have
go,
the
it would be a
option. So,
board
who's the call?
decision.
So my question is, so who's the call? Who's gonna call to exercise that option?
We have the option.
We
We have the
So,
option.
so basically, so we have the option, and at the end of the first year, we have the option not to renew, we can have the option
Yes,
to log in.
yes. So the board would vote whether to renew next year at this time.
Gotcha. That make, yeah, that makes a difference.
But the only thing we want to go forward is what's great. Hopefully we can find a role we need for next year.
Well,
Would that be the only reason?
yeah, I mean, the rate may be very fair.
Mhm.
Not. I don't know. The rate may be very fair or not. Don't know. So, yeah, sorry.
I can't find it. It's up to you guys. We do have to select an auditor before April 1st. I can keep looking and we can table it until the end of the board meeting. I'm gonna try to go back into old board meetings, to try to find it. So it's up to you guys. I might be able to go to March last year and find it. It's not something I've been.
How do you feel?
I think we go for it since next year, I mean, we have new ED and other things. Maybe if it's just one less thing to.
You wanna do the. You wanna do the. With the option to renew, is that right?
Yes.
To go through 2027.
Yeah, I know they just revise the language because we're gonna have a new ED, okay, we don't want to kind of lock it. It's 3 years, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and, you know, I want us to have the option to call. Maybe after, you know, just approve 1 year, then we have the option to renew on a yearly basis. That'll give us, you know, some time.
Well, you would renew on a yearly basis anyway, because you would have to approve the renewal each year.
What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with that. I personally think. Fiscally speaking, you know, for total cost of the 3 years, we should go out to bid. You know. I'm personally okay with 1 year, you know, we need to get it done for this year, that's important to do, but if we don't know and we haven't done it. I'd be curious the last time we did it. You know,
Most likely it was when it was probably 3 years ago.
yeah, so it's a good time. And she might be just the best deal in town still.
Yeah.
Obviously, her services are very important and we have appreciated her services and we want to continue to work with her. But I think it's incumbent on us to at least have that comparison, so we know.
Okay. Yes.
So I look to put a motion out to align on the 2020 or 2025 audit, right? But just make it a 1-year agreement with the option to renew and not have the renewal language in there beyond for 2026 and 2027.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to modify the language just to approve for 1 year.
Yeah, do you second my motion?
Yeah,
agree with
what
what-
you're talking about is the same thing, you know,
Yeah,
suggested.
Okay. Is that clear? The motion?
Modify the motion to approve for just 1 year.
Just 1 year.
1 year,
Okay,
At
and
the- at the stated rate.
okay.
Okay, so I made a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, thank you. So David seconds. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say nay. Hearing none, that modified motion passes. Okay, C, approve contract with Intrax. In order to recruit highly qualified Mandarin teachers, IA is contracting with Intrax to provide recruitment and visa services. Intrax provides J1 visa services for highly qualified teaching candidates. LCAP goal action, goal 1.2, funding source, general fund. budget financial impact, $5,125 per teacher will be reflected in the 2025-2026 budget. Any comments?
So, this is a company that, we've been looking into ways to increase our ability to find, qualified Mandarin speaking teachers. Intrax is a company that will do some of the recruiting for us as well as help out with the visa process. Right now, we are, we have done a few visas, but it's hard for us to recruit and, go through the entire visa process. So they're going to be able to kind of manage the recruitment as well as manage getting the visa for us, and doing the postings, all of the kind of required compliance pieces. And in looking, they are going to be able to do it for quite a bit less than what we've been currently paying for our teachers who are on visa, where we're having to kind of coordinate everything. And so we're not locked in to any particular amount of teachers. So this would be a contract kind of on an as needed basis, for us to be able to recruit and hire more Mandarin speaking teachers as needed.
And we basically paying them on success, right? Or just take on a case.
We're paying them basically to recruit and to go through the visa process. The visa process has a pretty significant cost, and then, going through the legal process of putting all of those documents together, that all of that would be included in that cost, which would come out less than what we have been paying.
So if, I guess my question is, if we're making a payment, is that in advance? Or, pay after the fact, after they successfully secured a visa for a teacher?
So that would be after they secure the visa for the teacher.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Please.
So the visa is for the whole school year?
It would be for a full school year, yes. And so for this, the way that this works with a J1 versus H1B, this would be for teachers for positions that we know in advance that we're going to have, so that they can secure the visa over the summer. It takes a little bit longer to secure. If every now and then in the middle of the year, we have to hire someone in the middle of the year, then we would likely still have to go through the H1B process, which is a little bit more expensive and a little bit more difficult. But we're trying with all of our planning. We now have our projections for next year. We're trying to get ahead of it early, so that we can use this process to be able to get teachers for the entire year, and recruit for them in the late spring, to be able to onboard them in the summertime.
How many do you think we would need? Do we have any?
At this point, we're looking probably at needing 2 Mandarin teachers for next year. So, so this would allow us, we would also recruit just, through EdJoin, hopefully getting some teachers who we don't need to sponsor a visa for. But also, if we can't find those teachers through EdJoin, because we have had some difficulty filling the Mandarin positions just by recruiting through EdJoin, then we would use this process. But right now it looks like 2 Mandarin teachers for next year.
So, what is the lead time? And I know it's based on government and.
Yeah, it usually takes, it depends. If it happens during the year, we've been expediting it, and that's quite expensive. Usually it can take about 60 days to get the whole visa process done if we're not expediting it.
But once you place an order, once you execute on the contract, okay, right, when you're executing a contract, you're committed to that, right?
Yeah.
Say, I need one person, and
Then-
then they start the
then they start
process,
the
you're
process, then we
committed,
would
and
be
so
committed to that.
someone new walks in off the street and says, hey, I'm ready,
Yeah.
we're already committed.
Then we've
on
already
that.
committed
Okay.
to that. Similar to what we have been with the H1B
Yeah.
visa process.
Okay, but roughly 60.
But
60 to
It's
90
roughly
days.
60 days without expediting.
So I have another question. Over here on the the J1 program,
Mhm.
they also mentioned about J2 dependent fee. What is that?
So if that person was bringing a son or daughter, a child with them, and we agreed, then we could pay their dependent fee. But we aren't required to pay that dependent fee
Okay,
because it's an additional piece of paperwork, visa for them to bring dependents with them.
so if it's a minor, so the J2 is, they can also attend school here,
Yes,
is that right? Would it?
not necessarily. It would
Here.
depend on their,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, so it's not parent, has to be dependent.
Dependent,
Okay,
yeah.
right.
Any other question?
When they're coming over for a year?
We would do it for a year with the option to be able to extend.
Okay, if they, if they provide a candidate that doesn't work out,
Then we're not required to keep that. To keep that candidate, if we do break their visa before the end of the year, then there is some cost for us, just like for an H-1B that we can possibly have to pay for their, to get them back to.
Return.
To return to their country,
Earlier, yeah.
because we're terminating early. But that's the same thing with our current, teachers that are on H-1Bs.
who manages any of the employees that come over on a visa? Who manages? Is that gonna be Betsy?
Betsy
It's all within
manages
HR,
those, yeah.
so she's actually interfacing with.
Yeah, she's the one that works
Interface as
with,
well.
Intrac. She works with our current, immigration, lawyer. And so she manages all of that and manages all of the documentation around that.
Thank you.
So Intrax is the company that decide whether the teachers are qualified, is that right?
So they bring us qualified teachers, but those teachers, they would still need to submit their resume, their credentials, all of that documentation to our HR.
Okay.
So because it's really up to us to determine whether they meet the qualifications to be able to teach in California. But Intrax will vet them to make sure that they have those qualifications that we're looking for particular positions. But Betsy would still do all of the credential tracking and all of that HR paperwork.
Okay, it's recommended the board of directors approve action item C. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
All right, thank you, David. I'm happy to second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, please say nay. Hearing none, it passes. Okay, item D, approve 1.5 million state guaranteed line of credit with Endeavor Bank in order to ensure positive cash flow throughout the remainder for the 2024-2025 school year and the 2025-2026 school year. IA is opening a 1.5 million line of credit with Endeavor Bank. The interest rate is 9% with a loan fee of 0.5%. IA will also be moving our banking to Endeavor. LCAP goal action not applicable. Funding source, general fund, budget, financial impact variable based on the line of credit usage. It's recommended the board of directors approve action item D. Any comments?
So, I sent you guys the proposal. We are still waiting for, the state guarantee, which should come back tomorrow or the next day. So I don't have the actual loan documentation. So, what I would be asking for the board to approve is, the line of, opening the line of credit, based off of the proposal and the terms, that were proposed, which are outlined here. And then giving, Brett and I the ability to sign the loan documents, so long as they met all of the criteria, that was outlined in the proposal. As soon as the state guarantee gets approved, hopefully tomorrow.
Where are they based? Endeavor Bank.
I think that they are San Diego, yeah.
Do you have a local branch office?
They don't have a local branch office here, but they do, our person that we're working with, is actually based here in Irvine.
So this would be a move from Cathay.
From Cathay,
That's what I said, yeah.
to Endeavor
Entirely, right?
entirely.
Oh,
But they are offering us basically no fees for the banking as well as the state guaranteed line of credit at a much lower interest rate than we're getting with our selling off receivables.
Is that the bank, in terms of bank, the in good shape, solid financial
Yeah, I mean, we
foundation?
looked at them. They're actually a growing bank, and more of a business bank, but I think they're looking to I think they're trying to add a nonprofit or two to their portfolio, so we're somewhat lucrative for them as a nonprofit, which is why I think they were working to get the rate down much lower for us to be part of their bank. They're also 100% guaranteed by the Treasury for much higher than most other banks are. So that was one of the other pieces, you know, the little financial instability maybe in the economy right now. So so we wanted to make sure that there was a guarantee for all of our money instead of just for the normal 2.5 million. Not that we have that much money right now, but someday we may, and we want to make sure that all of it is guaranteed versus just the 2.5 million that is normally guaranteed through the Treasury.
It's important to know.
So I think they have $150 million Treasury guarantee versus, so that, I don't know when we're ever going to have 150 million, but hopefully someday. So this again would be amended to approve the line of credit as long as the final loan documents met the proposal.
Well, if you, one question is, if you're gonna take a loan, I mean, we have $1.5 million line of credit. So if you take, you know, that's on a revolving basis, right? Okay. Doesn't mean we don't have to take. We don't have to.
We can leave it.
Yeah.
Leave it in there,
Yeah.
Until we need it and then pay it back as soon as we get our state receivables. So unlike the selling off receivables, we would only use exactly what we needed. And then we could, you know, pay it back as soon as we have those receivables, keeping our interest rate even.
So every time we needed to draw on against that line of credit, we're gonna have a approval process, right? It goes through.
So one thing that we can talk about and put into our policies is when we're drawing on it, we could either do what triggers a draw. We could also do whether it's a full board approval or approval by the finance committee, which sometimes is a little bit easier to get together than a full.
So we wanna make sure that it's mechanism, so we don't have you know, gotta give people a blank approval. You know, without a controlling mechanism. Okay.
Any other questions? All right.
Okay, so I'm gonna make a modified motion here.
Yeah.
So we're gonna make a motion to open 1.5 million line of credit. With an interest rate of no more than 9%, the loan fee no more than 0.5%. And in the event that we get that with the bank, that we would also authorize IA to transfer our bank account from the current account to this new bank.
Yep.
Is there a second?
Did you mention, you know, there will be, when we approve it, there will be like, you know, controlling mechanism, I'm gonna have some languages in that.
Okay, and once we approve it, we'll also put in place some mechanism by which monies from the line of credit will be drawn.
Will be drawn, then, you know, you can, you know, go ahead. Allowing, 1.5, right? And we're gonna put a threshold each time, when there's a need.
We'll probably need a separate.
Yeah,
Yeah,
probably need a second, approval process.
Yeah.
Are we okay with the initial?
Yeah.
Okay, so is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, thank you, David. All in favor, please say aye.
Okay.
Any opposed, please say nay. Hearing none, it passes. Thank you. Okay, item E, approve the technology support specialist job description. This new position will provide daily technology support with IA's increase in students and the need to improve cybersecurity and device monitoring. It's important that IA have a dedicated staff member overseeing our technology needs and providing timely support to staff and students. LCAP goal action, goal 1.2, funding source, general fund. Budget financial impact, approximately 65,000, including salary and benefits, will be included in the 2025-2026 budget.
so currently we contract with an outside firm to provide technology support. But that support really is only for about 2 hours a week on Friday mornings. With our increase in devices, our need to make sure that we are meeting all of the cybersecurity needs, student device monitoring, just everyday tech support throughout our school. We feel that it is important to have a dedicated staff member. Right now, that poor dedicated staff member seems to be Mary Beth, and that is not her job description. So right now we pay about $25,000 for that kind of 2 hours a week. So we're looking at hiring someone in-house for the amount of extra support that we'll be getting and the amount of dedicated time. It definitely offsets, kind of a little bit more than doubling the amount that we're going to spend. But we do have, we will have that in the budget for next year, and looking at the budget numbers for next year. And it really is important. We want to make sure that we're really monitoring our student device usage and have some better controls in place with our technology security.
Based on the description, it looks like you just needed to hire a full-time IT person, right? Right?
Yeah, it's just a full-time,
So
like
you
I'm
said
more of a
it's
tech
IT.
specialist.
IT guy.
Yeah,
I'm gonna modify that in language instead of technology support, to me, I'm a technology guy, I'm a scientist. So what kind of a technology guy? You probably just modify the title and have a clear job description,
we do have a clear job description. It was in the folder
Yeah, okay.
with all of the different duties for
Yeah,
that
so,
job.
instead of just a cybersecurity and the device monitoring, there'll be, provided general IT support to the staff, to the students and so forth.
Yeah, there's a whole full page job description in there, so it
That's
outlines
that is-
all of the different roles and responsibilities. I just was outlining the cybersecurity and staff support, just because those are kind of our biggest needs right now.
And maybe just the information technology. What do you think?
Well, when you post the job, it'll ask you what is the category, right?
Mhm,
Just
yeah.
What is the classification? How do you?
So it's usually technology and
So that
information
is-
technology support.
That's how it's.
And Betsy did a job study and kind of looked around at all of our surrounding districts and schools at what comparable jobs they have. As well as the salaries. So we kind of took this so that it would be in line with similar jobs that are already being offered out there in the county. So that was a kind of a general title for that job that's pretty common throughout most other school districts and schools in the area.
You already have a candidate?
Not for this job.
Okay.
So we would be flying this job through EdJoin and probably Indeed, just to get a wide range of technology.
Yeah, so I was wondering, if someone within the education space only, or maybe it's.
We'd usually
It'd be
for a
good-
job like this, we would do it in Indeed as well.
Yeah. But it'd be good to have someone who has some, I
Some
see it,
t-
I see
yes.
in the job description.
It's better for somebody to have some education
Education.
technology experience. But for a job like this, it's kind of a lower level tech job. So they could get that, kind of that training on the job as well.
They also go through the live scan screening.
They go through all of our employees,
After-
do the live, do the live scan, and TB test, all the same requirements for any employee working on campus.
So in the past year or two, you mentioned about the tech person will come like once a week. What sort of things that this person been doing?
Mostly this person has just been doing some, kind of tech support going, changing passwords, maybe sending in technology to be fixed. One of the things that I was a little shocked about, because we have so many Chromebooks, is that we didn't have anybody who could just replace a Chromebook screen, which is usually, I mean, we actually trained kids to do it as part of an elective, and then they worked kind of under our technology specialists. We've been actually just either sending them in to get replaced or just replacing the whole Chromebook, so that's not very cost effective. So this person will be able to do a lot of hardware and software support, as well as manage some of our software systems, our Google G Suite, updating student passwords, emails, it kind of just general hardware, software, and information technology support. We don't really need a network specialist because IUSD runs all of our network, switches, things like that, but it would be more just device management and then software and hardware support.
So what sort of problems or that the problems from teachers, from the students, what sort of question they have or the problem they have with the devices in the past few years?
I mean, everything from not being able to log in to breaking off the headphone jack inside of the Chromebooks to breaking screens. And now we really need to, I mean, we're growing, we really need to have device monitoring software installed so that teachers can actually monitor what students are doing on their devices during class. That's been kind of an issue, especially this year with more middle school students. And so having somebody that would be able to install that software onto the computers, update Chromebooks, as well as kind of manage that device monitoring software as well.
The reason I ask is my school district, we have teachers, a tech person to, so we paid her the stipend. And then so anytime we have any problem, we'll send an email to her and she will use her after school time, come and fix it, or teaching our student council to fix stuff. So you talk about the screen and so on.
Yeah.
So for our geek student, we taught them how to change that. Yeah. But at the same time, you mentioned about some of the things that the district has.
Yeah, I think because we don't have,
Yeah.
we don't have district tech, so we're kind of combining that all into, because we're so small, into one position. So some of the stuff that a district technology person would do, and then some of the stuff. So having a teacher do it on a stipend, there's a little bit bigger job than that. Any other questions?
Okay, so it's recommended the board of directors approve action item E. Is there a motion?
I motion.
Thank you, Molly. I'm happy to second. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed, please say nay. Hearing none, it passes. Okay, moving to F, approve the revised executive director job description. The executive director job description has been revised to better reflect the job responsibilities currently performed by the executive director. The requirements for experience, education, and credentialing have also been updated to ensure that the executive director is highly qualified for the position. LCAP goal action, goal 1.2, funding source not applicable, budget financial impact not applicable.
So we did update the executive director job description, and thank you, Ms. Kraft, because that should have said chief executive officer for the organization, not for the board. So I will make that update. But we did want to make sure that the executive director job description, I'm not sure when the last time it was revised. I believe it was back at the very beginning of the organization. And so we did want to make sure that it really more accurately reflected the role of the executive director, especially now that we have an executive director and a principal. Because there was a lot of overlap in the duties in the old job description of more kind of specific principal job duties. And now that we have had a separate executive director and principal for almost a year now, we've been better able to kind of gauge what should be the role of myself and what should be the role of Grant. And then just kind of looking at other comparable job descriptions for executive director, as well as superintendent for small school districts, and just updating those. One of the other things that we updated was the requirements. In our previous job description, I believe master's degree was only preferred, administrative credential was only preferred, and I believe it said 3 years of leadership experience preferred. So we made all of those things a requirement for the position, and then up that leadership experience to 5 years of successful administrative experience, just to make sure that anybody that was coming in and applying for the job and receiving the job had significant leadership and school administrative experience. So those are some of the things that were modified, but a lot of it was around kind of shoring up the differences in the job description for the principal and the executive director, and ensuring that it more closely tied with the executive director position.
I forgot, are there any languages, experience, former experience in dual language immersion program?
So I don't think we put that in there specifically. We could definitely add that. I don't know if we want to put that in as an absolute requirement, because that may limit our pool, but we could put that in as a preferred.
But this is the preference.
So I can make that, there it is. So I can make that edit as well to add that in as something that is preferred.
You mentioned something. Experience with charter and immersion schools. So not necessarily the Chinese language, but just the
Dual immersion.
dual immersion.
So we could put it in experience with dual immersion schools preferred.
Yeah, or language immersion,
Mhm.
it may not be dual, it may just,
Maybe
but I mean, I don't know,
some school has 3.
Yeah.
some language,
So we could just change it to language immersion experience preferred.
Also,
What that means, English language, I mean,
Yeah,
I mean,
well,
I mean,
we can't, specifically talk about Mandarin. But, when you say language immersion, that could mean.
that could mean
It
English,
could mean
yeah.
anything, could be just mean English,
multiple language.
yeah, multiple language, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I think most schools use the term dual immersion,
Yeah.
so we could probably leave it as dual
Yeah, we can,
immersion.
yeah.
Or multiple language immersion, up to you guys.
I just want good candidates.
Yeah. Scare a lot of people,
Yeah, I mean,
geez, huh?
I just, if someone is qualified, I'd hate to say, I'd hate to slant it, right? I mean, because that we have our AP, right? The Mandarin side, we have other resources, and they may or may not come with language immersion. They may not, right? But
That's why you
Trying
call
to
it,
open it
that's
to
why you
the-
call it preferred.
I know,
Not
but you're
absolutely required,
a little bit, it seems like we're, it's not required,
Yeah.
but we kind of want you to be able to speak.
Yeah, I mean,
You know-
it may keep some candidates from applying just because they think, well, I'm not gonna get it because I've never worked
They
in.
don't speak Mandarin.
in a
Because that's where
immersion
they-
setting before.
You're a Mandarin immersion program that you're hinting You really just want Mandarin speakers. So,
I think it's important that this person supports or understand the dual immersion, multiple.
Yeah, you can see
Yeah.
desirable, right?
Because before I accept to be the board member, I actually struggle with immersion because I didn't know too much about it. But after I did a study, I checked with my friends that are actually, because in my mind at that time is, you're teaching kids with two languages where they get confused. I guess that's the old thinking of, you have to know your mother tongue well before you can speak English. So, but I did some research, talked to people. Then when I was sure that I agree with this type of teaching styles, then that's when I decided, okay, I will be the board member.
yeah,
Yeah, so I think it's important. You need to agree with what we're doing and you totally support about it. So however, we're gonna write it and
And I think, it kind of depends on whether we want to determine that through more the interview process.
Yeah,
Kind of
true.
asking some
Yeah.
questions,
it's a screening.
Trying
It
to-
feels like a screening question to me.
weed people out.
Yeah, and like, for example, you came from Oprah, right? And they have language tracks,
Mhm.
right? I don't know if it's considered.
Not really considered dual immersion,
language
but we do.
you have
have
experience with
language.
it, so I mean, to be honest, I didn't see it so much as a criteria for you. Like, you were open to hear and you were willing and interested and very capable and you did great,
I
from
learned
my
a ton about
perspective,
dual immersion.
right? So I just wanted anyone who feels qualified to run, right, from executive director standpoint, should apply. And we'll be able to understand in that process their level of understanding of what we do or speak, their ability to speak one language or another. But I'm open to what you guys want to do. I just I don't want to exclude folks from applying.
Well,
that may
if
be
you put
very
an absolute
qualified.
requirement, that's an exclusion, but if you see that's desirable. That's not an exclusion. You're still inclusive. You tell them, and this ED position differentiates from other ED position. In a way, it's a dual language program, right? It's just a preference. You're not going to exclude others. But just like, some of the position, you say, hey, with an advanced degree, master, whatever, preferred but not required. A lot of positions, right? PhDs, some research scientists, yeah, that's required, but others is a preferred. You have a MBA preferred, but not required. It's the same thing. To me, I think, you mentioned that, that's, just to give people say, okay, that's a preference. Especially the people with that experience, I think probably inviting them to apply, but you don't exclude persons like that. That's okay.
yeah, that might be the question we can ask them during the interview. Because I do, so it depends on how you see the prefer. Some people look at a prefer. I don't have that experience. I probably don't try, and that's what we do. That happen. Yeah. Because in a way, I think dual immersion is not, it's the past 10 years, is that? It's
Probably, yeah.
So
Since
it's
it
not-
became very.
so it's not that common before, but we want experienced people. We want someone that be in education for a while. So because that we don't want to prevent them from applying.
You're writing job description, you're not writing advertisement. This is job description we're talking about.
But this is what is also going to be on the advertisement that people are going to look at to decide whether they want to apply for the position.
those who, let's say, speak Mandarin
Yeah.
and they feel qualified, they're gonna apply, right? What I'm saying is, let's not make those that don't speak Mandarin feel like they shouldn't apply because they know it's desirable. You know, because when you apply, you don't know how many others are gonna apply. So you say, well, I don't wanna apply, I don't speak Mandarin. So that's all I'm saying, that we can, in which we go through the screening process, we'll see who can and who
Yeah.
can't and what asset that brings value based on the background. You'll be able to understand the full picture. But
Yeah, I mean, it's on the resume, we'll also be able to see,
Yeah.
to your point, whether they have dual immersion experience. And a smart person will put that in their introduction. But it's up to you guys.
Yeah, I'm not, you know, I'm okay either way, but, you know, I think, you know, adding some kind of language there would be better. You know, just a preference, but not a requirement. But you can mention that. Prefer but not required. I mean, you still kind of a signal that. You're not gonna exclude them and send them away. If someone's confident enough, they're gonna apply anyway. If they are not confident enough, that's not the person you want. What do you think?
what's the benefit of adding?
Well, you just, I mean, because this position differentiates from other executive director position. Otherwise, it's the same thing.
But
You know,
they're,
each position is different.
yeah, but they're
That's why
applying,
you write a job description.
they're applying for the ED role at a dual immersion school. So. It comes with some understanding or acceptance.
So that,
Right,
so your argument is either way.
No,
There's no
what I'm
difference.
saying is,
Yeah.
I can see it from the perspective
Yeah.
of those that are non-speakers. Right, and so I think in the time that we have to do the vetting, I don't want to exclude any of the non-speakers.
No, neither do I.
Yeah, but
No, we're not gonna exclude anyone who doesn't speak Mandarin. That's not what I'm saying. You know, this person could be, you know, dual language program, it could be Spanish, English, it could be other things, right? Doesn't regardless.
Yeah.
It's just a preference. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. That, you know, that'll be my preference. I think, you know, because otherwise, you know, you can, you know, copy paste as the executive director job description here. I mean, each JD is different. Each position is different. Then what differentiates this executive director position from the others?
what's in the job description?
Well, that's
And the fact
exactly,
that it's-
that to me,
at the
that's a
school.
differentiating factor. One of the key differentiating factor. Otherwise, you might just, well, cut and, you know, copy paste.
But that's part of the screening process, so everybody.
Well, that's different. You're putting here, that's what I'm saying. You put the one differentiating factor as a preference, not a requirement. Your concerns, you know, you put some language will specifically exclude a lot of candidates, which will not. You know, you make it clear, it's not required.
Well, I see,
I don't see why that's an issue.
well, I know you mentioned about kind of like copy paste, but I know this one, Dr. Kernan, you went over it. So Dr. Kernan knows exactly what we need at IIA. So this one is not really copy paste because Dr. Kernan modified the
So
job
that's,
description.
that'll be my position. It's my- propose to modify it. We include the language. Just for one sentence.
Sentence says that.
Well, it depends on what we call it, but I had dual language immersion experience for,
But not required. See that? Just to be very clear.
from somebody who has
Yeah.
applied for positions. I think I probably would still apply. However, I know people who might not apply because they would think that they were going to get somewhat screened out if they didn't have that experience. Not because, I guess, not saying that it is a requirement, but reading through and kind of wondering back and forth, I might think, well, I'm likely not going to get the job.
You see that kind of language is the automatically quit. That's not the person, that's not the leader you want.
Well, I have reviewed resumes from the prior years for this role, and the number of applicants with what we're asking for, it's been very, 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 very slim. So,
We want to make sure that we're casting as, I guess, as wide a net to be able to then have that selection process, I guess, from the widest net possible that we can then narrow, or, you know, the board can then narrow down based on what you're looking for.
now we may be in a situation this time around where we get a lot of applications and we have a lot of people with dual language experience and that are very qualified, right? And it may not be any issue at all, but I mean,
As a charter school, sometimes we're not going to get as many applicants anyway, just because we're a charter school versus a district school that would be looking for a similar role. Just based off of. you know,
Let me
just the
ask you
number.
this question. This job description of executive director, what's the key difference between this one and anything else?
I mean, the role is executive director, so the job description has been tailored more towards what you would do here versus our principal. But it is still an executive director job description, so we are, you know, so there isn't.
My point is, what is, you know, executive director job description for IIA, what is the differentiates from another ED position for another school?
Not much, because it's still an executive director. The difference would be what the board
So
worked with that
again,
person
come back to
in
my
terms of it.
point, if to the extent you're gonna write a job description specifically for a school, you gotta have at least one differentiating factor. What is that?
well, the person needs to be responsible for ensuring the IA mission and vision is successful. So they have.
That's a
they have to do it
replacement,
I-
that's a space holder, you can put any school.
But that's.
Yeah, you know,
that's
the
unique.
executive directors are gonna ensure any, whatever, IIA or whatever, it's the same thing, that's a placeholder.
But that's. what-
Because no differentiating factor whatsoever, that's what I'm saying.
But
Right?
do we need to
Yeah.
have a differentiate?
Yeah, what, you know,
Do we
to me,
need to-
you know, you put anything very generalized statement. The description can fit anywhere. You replace IIA, you can place any other school, it still fits.
Does it
You
need
don't
to be?
see any differentiating factor, that's my problem with that. Can you guys see that?
I mean, I'm not sure why, I guess,
Do we need
Molly's,
to?
but
I
does it
think-
need to be?
Just the
Do we
add
need
that,
to-
what's wrong with the add that, or what's the problem with the add something like that, just a one differentiating factor,
Well, I mean,
one.
Dr. Kernan just mentioned that she knows.
No, I mean, you're arguing about, screening process, what am I asking, guys? Think about a job description on this particular position. What is the single differentiating factor? You can't even tell me. And you're
Well,
making
this-
argument
this-
that this is not.
This job
applicable.
actually, this job description actually aligns with what the ED here
Yeah,
does.
what I'm saying
versus
is,
the-
yeah,
Versus the job.
what I'm
description.
saying, job description here, it's the same, it's a universal. Okay, what do you put here is universal, what is, you can't even tell me one single differentiating factor. Nothing.
I just mentioned that you need to align with IA's mission and vision. That is the school.
Yeah.
That's the basis of our
Yeah, you
school.
can
So,
increase my problem, Brad, you can change IIA you to anything else.
Sure,
I mean, that's the same thing.
but there's a lot in that. Obviously,
Yeah.
you need to understand the mission and vision. If
Yeah.
you don't align with it, you're not going to apply. Unless you're just looking for
Join
a
your,
job, and then we
join
figure
your
that out.
company or institution, your organization, yeah, but automatically you have to agree to align your vision, agree with your vision and the mission. Yeah. But in the job description, each position is different. In each organization is different. Yeah, you're gonna align that. All right, same thing, that's general, that's very general. Yeah. This is the same thing. That's the only thing differentiates from that's just the ask for some preference. It's a preference, it's not a requirement. I don't know why that's the issue.
Okay, so it sounds like you would like to modify the
I
job.
can modify, yeah.
Okay, so do you want to make a motion?
Yes.
To modify?
Yeah.
So why don't you make the motion and we'll see if we can get a second. Just a second. So,
Okay, I'll make a motion to modify the language, to add the language. Prior experience in dual language program or experience is preferred but not required.
okay, so there's a motion. Is there a second? Okay, don't hear a second. I'd like to make a motion to approve the revised executive director job description with the modification that was mentioned earlier.
That would be to change where it says the chief executive officer of the board to chief executive officer of the organization.
Yes. Okay. Is there a second for that?
I see.
So all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, please say nay.
Nay.
So we have 2 ayes and 1 nay. It passes.
Yeah, that's a, good discussion.
Thank you,
but,
thank you. Okay, moving to item G, approve the IA governance handbook. The
And
IA,
actually,
yeah, please.
sorry, I forgot to do this at the beginning, but we are waiting to hear back from legal on the bylaws. So I would propose that we table the handbook and the bylaws to the next meeting to
Okay.
make sure that we get legal input. The handbook was fine, but we're still waiting to hear back on the bylaws, and I don't want to update the handbook without updating the bylaws at the same time. So if the board is okay with that, we would table both S, G and H
Okay,
until we get legal feedback on the bylaws.
Yeah.
I just don't want to change
Yep.
the bylaws without legal signing off on
thank you.
it.
Okay, moving to I. Approve the revisions to the board policy 6158 independent study. Board policy 6158 independent study has been revised to include new legislation and recommendations from the Orange County Department of Education during their annual oversight visit. LCAP goal action, goal 2.9 and 2.10, funding source not applicable, budget financial impact not applicable. Any comments?
So there was just some new language around how long we have to get independent study agreements signed. So if they're under 15 days, we can technically have the entire year in order to get those signed. They don't need to be signed prior to starting the independent study. And so we did update the language around that to align with the new legislation. So it also helps us in terms of being able to make sure that we are capturing that independent study data and following Kristen, so that point, so making sure that we're always staying up to date with the latest legislation and practices and procedures around independent study.
So this is legislation driven and not because of any findings from any
No, it's no.
oversight. Boards or- I just wanna make sure I'm aligned on this.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Okay, any questions? Okay, it's recommended the board of directors approve action item I. Is there a motion?
I motion.
Molly, is there a second? Happy to second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, please say nay. Hearing none, it passes. Okay, moving on to the executive director's report.
Okay, well, I just want to thank everyone. I know I announced my retirement and let the community know. IA is an awesome place. Anybody would be, very lucky to be able to step into my role. I got a very good offer to be able to retire very early and travel around Europe.
Better.
Not that this isn't a great offer, but it might have been a smidge better. And so, but I will be, working through to June 30th. I also said, some things like CalPETS errors and things like that, I might, do in my retirement just because I'm bored. And also helping to transition the new ED in and making sure that they're situated with everything that they need. But I am, still here and finishing the year strong, and we're gonna be starting our push towards testing season and celebrating the great scores that we got last year to pump all the students up for trying to get even better scores this year. And then we have a lot of exciting things coming up. Plug again for the In May We Dance, Kendra. So we want to make sure that everybody is getting their tickets ASAP. I know, Tiffany, not to put you on the spot, how many tickets do we have so far? Do you know around? So we need to really pump that up. Yes, so I have my tickets. Do we all have our tickets? So make sure you're getting your tickets if you have not yet gotten your tickets. But we're doing some promotions for the classes that get the most sales. So make sure that you put your student's teacher's name in so that maybe they get a pizza party. But just, we want to make sure that that is a big, great event here in IIA. And then we're, I can't believe there's only a couple months left of the school year. So we're just gonna try to end super, super strong. It's almost the end of, I think we have conferences coming up next week. So yeah, the year has gone by super, super fast. But just looking forward to an exciting end of the year.
Okay, thank you very much. Board of Directors, reports, comments.
I want to thank Dr. Kernan. It just I saw some of the plan that you, even though you're leaving us, but you're not going to leave us alone here. I saw your, just the step by step helping us get ready for the future, and I appreciate you that. I mean, that actually, when I saw the whole thing, it kind of calmed me down a little bit. And so, but it just, how much you have invested into IIA, and you're so dependable, so you're so faithful to make this school, the family, the children were, just appreciate you so much. And, yeah, and I also just so look forward. I know this, we're entering into the third trimester. And this year I got a chance to participate some of the activity. Really got to know some of the teacher a little bit more. And I just, we know that we're gonna end the school year well and look forward to the next year. We have a lot of new things, you know, hopefully a technology. We have a new back office support. Just look forward to that.
Well, first of all, congratulations on getting your offer to retire. I would assume probably from your husband, most likely.
My husband and my family.
Yeah. So, yeah, and yeah, we're gonna miss you. Yeah, you know, I was a little bit shocked to hear your decision to retire. I think the time is really too short to work with you. Yeah, really, you really enjoyed very much working with you during the past about a year, right? Or less, slightly less. You know, your joining the team at a juncture where we experienced a tremendous growth in the past 1 year. And it's a great period. It's one of the best, or the best, actually, the best time of IA. So we were gonna miss that. And we really, as a board member, really appreciate all your dedication, your effort, leadership in the past year. And you know, going forward, we hope we can still have your advice sometime and help when needed. But we're gonna miss you.
Definitely.
Yeah. You may not miss us when you are in boat or something.
I'm always available, just
Yeah.
mind the time difference.
So, first off, want to thank you, Molly, and David. Our discussions, school is near and dear to all of us. We all want the same thing, so thank you. Dr. Kernan, you have made such an amazing impact this year, I really must say. So, tonight, we approved this line of credit option for us, and it is monumental for the school, for the financial sustainability of the school. And I get emotional because we've been through so much. School has been through so much. So it's amazing to hear that emerge from Grow Schools, and we appreciate the service that they provided, but we need something much more sustainable for ourselves. So we're really on a very healthy financial track. So it really wasn't until you. Thank you. Can't really go.
Don't get
So
too emotional.
it made me dance. It's very critical. Thank you to the PTO, and thank you, Ms. John, for all of the support. You've had a phenomenal impact on our school. So thank you very much.
And
Thank you to
she's not
Sai. Yeah, I hope, thank you to Sai. Thank you all for being here. Thank you to our authorizer for being here as well. Thank you, Julie. Thank you. Okay, that's all I have. Moving on. Any community input on non-agendized items?
Nope.
Okay, so I'll move to adjournments. Recommended the board adjourn the regular meetings, the regular meeting of the Irvine International Academy Board of Directors on March 18, 2025. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, David. Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you, Molly. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, please say nay. Hearing none, it passes. Meeting adjourned at 9:01.